A year ago, we had this guy 35 to 40 years old. He would come in every day for lunch. He was fascinated by my stretched ears and few piercings I had on my face, and always asked questions. He would sit down after I rang him out and watch me from his table for 2 hours non-stop, just staring at me while I helped the other customers. This goes on for about 2 weeks. Every day he would ask for my number, saying he has plugs and tunnels he wants to give me and see me wearing them in my ears, and I always declined. One day, I'm alone in the store because my manager had to run to the bank. We were really slow that day, so I was just in the back room messaging around on my phone. I heard the door chime, looked up, and yet no one was there. Then I saw the man walk past the front door, really quickly, like he was in a hurry. The store phone rings. Me. Thanks for calling Subway. How can I help you? Him. This is the girl with the nice ears, right? Me. Who is this? Him. Are you alone in the back room right now? Are you working by yourself? At this point, I really got creeped out and knew it was him. I hung up and texted my manager the situation, so she would hurry back. He called again, this time asking me weird questions, like what I would do with him in a room with the door locked, if I had a boyfriend, who I was playing hard to get, and etc. My manager gets back, and I tell her everything. Middle of the lunch, he called again. This time, my manager answers, and to this day, she never told me what he said. But the look on her face made my spine shiver. She told him if he called again or showed up here, she would call the police. I thought that was the end of it. But alas, I was wrong. 1 week later, I'm clocking out and getting ready to walk to my car parked in the front. When I look outside, I see him standing by my car and looking inside of it. I was an idiot and left the back door unlocked. I watched him crawl inside and shut the door. The creep was trying to hide in my fucking backseat, and do God knows what to me when I got in. My manager locked the front door and called the police. When they arrived, they had to pretty much drag him out of my car, and he was arrested. And he was a butcher knife and a rag with chloroform on it. If I hadn't looked up when I did, I would be dead right now. When I first moved into a new place in a new town, I had left home one evening and left my garage door open. Texted husband to tell him so he could go home and close it. He gets there and tells me it's not open. That's strange, but okay. The next day I'm taking my trash out and my neighbor was outside. He introduced himself and told me that the night before he noticed me leaving and he left my garage door open. So he went inside and closed it and let himself out through the front door, only locking the doorknob lock. Then he sent me a Facebook request. I'm assuming he looked at my mail on my counter to find out my full name. A few days later, he wrote me poems and taped them to my door. Left gifts on the front porch. Made crazy Facebook posts about a woman he was in love with who was forbidden. One night, I came home late, and I was finishing my cigarette outside of my garage before going in. He was sitting outside in a chair, drunk. He approached me and started talking about someone named George. I had no idea what he was going on about and confused. I asked him if he had company. He walked into garage and came out with a box containing George. George was stepdad and he was dead. The ashes were in the box. He caught wind of a trip I was going on via Facebook and invited himself along. I politely explained that I'm married, and all of his wacky behavior was unacceptable. A few days later, I had gone on a walk with my husband, and we left through the garage, leaving the door open. He messaged on Facebook and told me he had left a gift for me in my garage. When I got back, I found a bunch of camping gear inside of a giant Easter egg. After I got back from the trip, he showed up at our door at midnight, drunk and banging on the door. We moved. When I was in my final 2 years of high school, I would get tutored for math by a guy who is Brian. Brian was at least 65 years old and worked for a tutoring center. I would see him 2 afternoons a week for 45 minutes each. He seemed like a very lonely guy. No married, no kids, also no friends, and I felt a bit sorry for him. I was always really nice to him, and to avoid having to do math work, I would just ask him questions and try to start a conversation. All was well when I finished high school, and that was that. About 1 year later, my best friend's younger brother got tutored by Brian as well. And one day, when dropping my friend's brother off, I said, "Say hi to Brian for me," as he got out the car. About a week later, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Brian. He was saying how he had locked me, and that he was now tutoring Ben. My friend's brother was so excited when he mentioned to say hi. He took this the wrong way, and in the letter basically confessed the feelings he had for me. I was so glad I felt the same way. He said some very creepy things in the letter about how I looked good in my uniform and always wanted to tell me about, but didn't want to get in trouble. I told my parents about the letter, and they approached the tutoring center and told the owners. He ended up getting fired for the letter, also for accessing personal information of clients for him to send the letter. About a week later, I started receiving flowers at my doorstep, and they would then be followed up with text messages to my mobile phone or my mail. Hope you like the flowers. Give me a call if you want to get coffee. My parents took all this to the police, who then got in contact with Brian, and he was cautioned and have never heard from him since. High school boyfriend. I split up with him. He was already controlling, judgmental, abusive. I was moving on to college at the local university. He went fucking crazy. Lost his goddamn mind. He began by threatening messages, about 200 a day, phone calls, showing up during my classes, showing up at my house, broke into my car and sat in the backseat. My best friend and I had gone to the movies came out. I was going to drop her off at home, and she noticed a huge mark on the passenger side of the car. Looked in the backseat, and there he was laying on the floor, trying to hide. But a new car with new plates. He broke into my dorm room. I then left the dorms because I felt unsafe and moved into an apartment not far from the college campus with 2 roommates. He found out where I was living and broke in there too. While I was in the shower, told him to get the fuck out, and he came after me with a knife. Had to call the cops. Locked myself in the bathroom. He was gone by the time the cops showed up. Was dating a newer guy who was an absolute gentleman, and I warned him about the ex-boyfriend. Ex-boyfriend crashes one of our dates and jumps new guy with 5 friends. Also end up with my face smashed in for being a cheater whore. I moved back into my parents' house. Ex-boyfriend attempted to break into my parents' house at 5 o'clock on a Sunday. So my entire family was home. Dad caught him and put a gun in his mouth. That didn't kill him. However, I think that's scary enough. He's left me alone for 5 years now, and when he sees me, he looks the other way.